I am here to give you some really quick ideas on how to deal with stress, because you need it right now, or Monday. And a lot of us carry this around all the time. It's part of being human. But I want to tell you a little bit about anxiety. Some of you guys experience it, right? You know what it is. Okay. I'm moving. I'm sorry. That's probably not good. Back when humans had to deal with immediate dangers, it made really good sense for anxiety to kick in and do something to you, right? Okay, because you hear something in the woods. I'm afraid to look, guys. This time. Okay. You hear a noise in the woods. You got seconds to decide whether your life is in danger or not. So anxiety is a really good thing to have when there's danger. It's not particularly useful most of the time in modern life. Now, some of you get a little adrenaline rush when you get enough anxiety going, right? And you kind of feel a little more empowered and a little stronger. But it doesn't last, does it? And then you sort of crash. Okay. And then the anxiety comes back. Because it does. What we are learning to do now is to control it. To recognize that it happens, and it happens all the time. You're thinking thoughts right now. Somebody's sitting here thinking, I should be studying right now. And that produces anxiety. Modern humans create most of the anxiety we experience. Now, you heard the siren go off a while ago, right? Most of you don't even listen to it at noon on Wednesday anymore, do you? If it was storming and lightning out there, you'd all be under the table. But you know the difference, don't you? That siren is a test siren on Wednesdays. Now, the siren goes off and it's stormy. We all do our storm preparation stuff. That's what it's for. And that's how long it takes. That's what your anxiety is for. To get you somewhere where you're back in charge of what's going on. Okay. Now, how do we manage it? If we leave out things like drinking and drugs and stuff like that, how do we manage it? Oops. I leave out all the important stuff. Okay. How a lot of us manage it is that we divert our attention. We go somewhere else. And the problem with that is you're sitting here studying and you have a test on Friday and your mind wants to go somewhere else. What are you going to do about that? Go there, right? No. We're going to learn to control that. And some of you do this. That's how you take care of yourselves, right? You drift off, you daydream, you relax a little bit that way, and I'm not discouraging you from that. But the other way to look at it is that's avoidance. That's a way for you to not do what you really need to do. And we will avoid anxiety if at all possible. So any of you who have avoidance as your primary defense mechanism, you're in my club, but it's not going to do you a lot of good. How do we stop it? Okay. We're going to breathe. This is what I want to show you. Anybody in here know how to breathe? Nobody.
We were doing that earlier in my class.
Yay.
Okay, deep breath. Here we go.
Okay. I don't even know what that means. Okay. I want to teach you how to breathe with your belly. Okay? And this is a very deep breath. It's not normal breath. It is meant very much to calm you down. Okay? Now, this is the part about anxiety you need to know. When the anxiety signal goes off, it goes to your brain says, uh-oh, I'm going to have to fight or run. You know that, the fight or flight. All the energy goes to the muscles. The oxygen goes to the muscles. Brain does not have to work in an emergency, so thinking is the last thing it's going to do. It's going to make your muscles work to try to save your life. That's why you get all tense and achy, too, by the way. And that's why your brain won't work when you're sitting there going, I know this stuff. Because your body thinks there's an emergency and you should use those muscles to run. And you have to convince it there's not. Breathing, the deep breath, will get oxygen to your brain. The brain will begin to use it and start to think, and it will say, I think I want to do something different than that. And it'll start working for you again. Those of you who've had full-fledged panic attacks, anybody here had one? Pretty horrible, aren't they? It's like really awful. You think you're having a heart attack and you think you're dying. And if you've had one of those before, or even a lot of anxiety, then what happens later is anxiety about anxiety. You become afraid of that happening again. And so as soon as an anxiety trigger comes up, like a test on Friday, you start having anxiety about, what if I get anxious? What if I can't think? What if I blank out completely? What if I can't remember? Okay, what if is a clue to anxiety. If you use that phrase, there's a really good chance that you're using it because you're anxious. Okay? Now, brain hears there's a test on Friday, good time to belly breathe. And I'm doing this on purpose. I want you to see that I'm pooching out my abdomen. Okay, I'm going to get air as far down into my lungs as I can get it. Hold it, and then I'm going to whoosh it out. Okay? And the reason I'm doing this is I want you to get your oxygen all the way down into your lungs. When you're anxious, you breathe up here. And in a minute, you're going to be in a bad place. Okay. You do 5 of these breaths, you're going to notice. Take your heart rate and figure it out. You'll notice that it drops a little bit. I slow down a little bit. We teach this to kids who've been traumatized. We call it belly breathing, and they like it. And they can learn to do it, and it helps them help themselves. And that's a road toward recovery, is to feel powerful again. When you come as students, we take a lot of your power away from you. You don't control your own lives. And you voluntarily did that. It's not something we went out and looked for you and said, come here, let me control your life. That's what you have to do to get where you want to go. And so you do things that you wouldn't normally do the same way you do them. And it makes you anxious because it's new and it's unknown. And what if this teacher is going to ask me something I don't know and can't remember and never studied? Okay. I'm going to change that. After we do the breathing, and I would like you all to do it. I'm trying not to move because I remember the camera, but in. Okay, I'm watching for breathing. Some of you are, and some of you are not.
I really am breathing.
Okay, I noticed that you haven't fainted yet, and that's a good thing. Mountain Home, I think somebody's not. Okay, how do I know? When I watch people breathe, I watch for whether their shoulders move or not, and that gives me a clue. I watch for whether the belly breathes or not. Okay, so I want you to practice it. Pull that in until you get it all the way down there. And then whoosh it out. Okay? The reason I'm doing this is that this is the first step toward managing anxiety. All right. Next step is to get out of the past or the future and into the present. Did you know you spent time in those places? Okay. A lot of you do. Some of you are there right now. And what I'm trying to tell you is the past could be a minute ago or 10 years ago. The future could be a minute from now or next Friday. You attach meaning to those things and carry them around and attach emotion to them as if they're really happening. And one of the things that I want to convince you of is that the only thing that's really happening is happening right now. And everything else is what you think. Is that big? Does that make sense to you? Okay, good. You're already in more control than you were then. Because I can think about the past and what happened to me before and what could happen again and work myself right into an anxiety trip. Or I could think, I'll learn something from that. I'll probably be able to use it. That'll be useful. If you're into anxiety, you're almost always in the future. Almost always in the future. What if? If this. Those are your clues. What if I failed this test? And then you usually answer it with a lot of emotion. Oh, I'm doomed. I'll lose my home. I'll have to live in the car under the viaduct. I'll have to eat out of garbage cans. It will be awful. And then that's the emotion I'm going to go into that test with? Not a good idea. How am I going to change it? I'm going to talk. Okay? The first thing I'm going to do is breathe. And the next thing I'm going to do is get into this room right now. So whatever's gone on in my life 10 minutes ago or 20 minutes from now is not happening right now. And we do this with breathing and our 5 senses. Okay? So everybody give this a try. Across from you somewhere, wherever you're sitting, there's a place where the wall and ceiling come together. Okay? And when you draw your breath in, the first breath I ask you to take, I want you to focus on that spot with your eyes and leave your eyes there. And then I'm going to ask you to draw that belly breath in. Ready? Okay. Those of you who are holding your eyes up, you probably noticed a couple of things. What'd you notice? There's not too much interesting about where the wall and ceiling come together, huh? But also, if you play this one and try it, you'll see something that happens. It's really hard to be emotional when you hold your eyes up like that. And if you draw your breath in, you've already moved one step further to your brain that this is not an emergency. Okay? You can do this anytime. If you want to stop crying, you know what you do? You hold your eyes up, don't you? Okay. So this is a tool you can use anytime, anywhere. And every room that has one of those places, so you don't have to worry about it. I'm not asking you to look at anything specific. I'm asking you to use your vision to bring you into this room. Right down. Next breath is a sound. And we're going to focus on a sound. Focus our ears on a sound. You hear the air conditioning running? Almost all rooms like this have that. So you really pull your breath in and listen to that sound. Okay. It's kind of a calming sound, isn't it, actually? Very nice. Third is going to be tactile. I want you to touch something and feel it. You don't even have to move. You can just touch something. And draw your breath in. And feel that feeling. Doesn't matter what you touch. You can touch your clothes or anything. And draw it in. And feel the feeling. Okay, that's smooth. I can feel that. Okay? Next one is a little harder, but I can see a few things that might help. It's smell. Okay? Try to find the smell. If it's around you, it'll be, your cologne or your shampoo or something. But try to find a smell. Draw your breath in. Focus on that and let it go. Okay? Last is taste, and most of you have just had something in your mouth, so you probably have a taste. Draw your breath in and focus on that. Good, good. In those 5 breaths, I've asked you to move out of the past and out of the future and be in this room in your body with all of the senses that you own. Okay? If you will do this, it will clean your brain out. You won't have as much stuff going on in there that you don't need. Okay? This is like a couple of minutes. This takes very little time to do, and you can do it many times during the day. Now, if we get those 2 done and we're already breathing better and our hearts are doing better and we're thinking a little bit better, now we're going to go to the part that causes the problem. Okay? So I'm going to draw my breath in and I'm going to let whatever thought wants to come through my head come through my head. I'm going to listen to it. Okay? So don't be surprised and don't censor it. It can be whatever you want it to be. Just draw your breath in and let a thought come. And then let it out. Okay? Without having to tell what your thoughts are, if it was a negative thought, which means I can't, I won't, I'm never, I always, I whatever, then I want you to think about it and modify it. Okay, so if my breath was, because you probably have figured this out, I'm kind of anxious about talking in front of people. So my thought was, oh boy, I really hope they don't think I'm just completely stupid. Okay, that's kind of a negative thought, right? Okay, not completely stupid. Okay. I also like to laugh, y'all, and if you want to laugh, feel free to do that because I'm trying real hard. Humor is a really good anxiety reducer, and I highly recommend it. Get something ridiculously funny and laugh. And you know that. Those of you who've done it, you know your whole body feels so much better. It's easy to do. Some people have cured themselves by going on a comedy binge, you know. It's really kind of fun. So put that in the back of your head. Laughter is a good cure. Now, that thought, that negative thought, oh, they all going to think I'm stupid. My next breath in, I'm going to modify that thought. How am I going to fix that? How am I going to make it okay in my brain? What's a change in the thought that I might do? Anybody got an idea how I might change that thought and make me feel a little bit better? Go ahead. Anybody? Nobody. Oh no, I'm doomed. Pardon me? Focus on one of my senses. I can do that, yes. So, being that I am kind of a visual person, I can put my eyes up like there. And the feeling part of that, which is my own insecurity, has nothing to do with you, can be managed. And then my brain wants to say, you know what, this is kind of fun. Where'd that come from? And I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. You know, you draw your breath in and you think, I'm never going to get that formula right. No matter how hard I studied, I can't get it. Okay, and that formula's on a test. Okay, you already heard some errors in that, and I'm going to tell you. Breathe your breath in. I actually take tests pretty well, and I am a good observer. Okay? You hear what I'm doing? I'm going to tell myself the truth as opposed to that negative thing that's been keeping me anxious. Like, what if they think I'm silly? Or what if I'm going to fail that test? I'm going to help you. So I acknowledge myself and what's true about me. I'm a pretty good studier. When I set my mind to it, I can learn things. That's kind of neat. Okay? You don't want to lie to yourself because you always know. Okay, I am the smartest person in this whole college, and I can do it all, and nobody can. Nah, your brain's going to go, that's not true. and it's going to not do it. So you want to tell the truth. But what happens with anxious folks is they tell themselves an awful lot of lies. And then they try to make them be true. And a lot of the lies are criticisms. If you use always and never and can't in those thoughts, then you're already got anxiety going on. It's not true. It's almost never true. Almost never, you hear that? So now we're changing our thoughts. Some of you have anxiety that makes perfect sense to you. I have to get this studying done. I've got to get to work. I've got to go take care of my kids. I have to go 6 miles down the road to do this or that. And you're always anxious because you can't stop it until you acknowledge it. All right? So you listen to the words. And we got that, right? Listen to your language. I jump all over always and never with people. It's not true. There's hardly anything that's always or never. That will help you a whole bunch if you just let that be true. I've never been good at studying formulas. I really like the way the teacher explained that formula. I think I can do that. What's the difference? Starting out in a whole different place. Okay? If some of you have learned to talk to yourself about that, like that in anxiety, then you've learned it in other places in your life. And you might want to go to those places and change it also. That would be in relationships, work, places where you have had anxiety and now you anchor that anxiety to those kinds of experiences. So by doing this breathing and calming and coming into the present, you're not attaching to those old anchors for anxiety. Okay? There's no bears in this room. That would be an anchor for anxiety for another a couple thousand years ago maybe. But it isn't. And so you can let go of that thought that's making you miserable. And I can tell you, and probably your teachers can too, they hear these thoughts all the time, and it's so frustrating because they know it's not that bad. They know you're smart enough to be here. You wouldn't be here. Is that true? Oh, wait a minute. You are smart enough to be here or you wouldn't be here. Is that true? Mountain Home, is that true? We don't know. Okay. Okay. The truth is that you're here because you've shown ability to do what's in front of you to do. Now that's a nice statement to make to yourself. I'm in the right place. Okay. So I'm going to quit worrying about that. Worry, by the way, is the right word that goes with anxiety. So now I'm in this place and I have to work really hard doing things that I might not really like to do all the time. I'm not crazy about those formulas. So I breathe and I focus on what I really want. There's jobs out there that you guys want to do, right? Isn't that why you're here? There's something you really want to do. And the only way to get there is to do this. Okay. So you're doing a very natural, normal thing to be here now. It's different, and so that keys anxiety sometimes, but it really is the really natural next thing for you to do. And your teachers are telling you, you do this, you'll learn how to do that, it'll take you to the next step, you'll learn how to do that, that'll take you to the next step. That all makes logical, wonderful sense, doesn't it? So what are you afraid of? You afraid of the teachers? No? I would be. They know stuff I don't know. I know they know stuff I don't know. Okay. I'm kidding. I am afraid they're going to ask me something I don't know. And why am I afraid of that? Because I'll make a bad grade? Breathe it in. What's the scariest thing about them asking me something I don't know? I'll be wrong? Is that the scariest thing? Or they'll know I'm wrong? Is that the scariest thing? Am I afraid of them knowing I'm wrong? See, they're going to teach me if I'm wrong, so they kind of need to know if I'm wrong. Do you get it? That I'm afraid of the thing that'll probably help me the most. Is when they know that I've made an error and they come back and say, Janice, you probably want to go this way. That's not because I'm bad. That's because I didn't do it the way it needed to be done. And they're telling me I'm wrong gives me a chance to correct it. Lovely. It's nice of them to do that. Now, if they just wouldn't give me a grade on it, that would be okay. They insist on that, don't they? And now you've got your next anxiety producer. I'm afraid I'll fail. Okay? That's not about your program. That's about you. You're afraid you're going to fail because of something inside of you that you believe or think. Okay. I'm afraid I'm going to fail because I always sort of fall apart right before a test. I'm afraid I'm going to fail because I never have done well in math. I'm afraid I'm going to fail because everybody else in this room knows so much more than I do. That woman over there, boy, she knows every answer. I just can't possibly. Okay, do you hear where I'm going with this? Is that your thinking is making the problem. I'm afraid I will fail because I want this really bad. I want this for my life, and I'm afraid that I won't have it. Is that true? Is that in there somewhere? Okay. Normal fear. Now I'm going to breathe. I'm going to modify that. It's natural for me to be somewhat uncomfortable in new settings. You'd be wrong if you weren't. It's natural for me to not always be comfortable with the unknown. Because I have to be on higher alert. I have to pay more attention. It's natural for me to not know what I don't know. Isn't that funny? It's kind of a strange thing. So you get mad at yourself because you don't know something, but it's natural for you to not know what you don't know. When you know what you don't know, you can go find out. And that's the change you make in the way you think. Gosh, I don't know how to do that formula. I really want to know how to do that formula. How can I learn that? That is so different from the fear. You hear it? I'm already calculating a way to learn it. And the only difference is what I think. Okay. Have I convinced any of you to monitor your thinking? Are you willing to pay attention to the way you think? Okay. Okay. If you put it in a social range, one of the things that happens is that we worry about what other people think. It's one of the biggest issues I ever hear in one-on-one counseling, is what will people think? And I'm going, if you figure that out, would you teach it to me? Because I don't know. The only way I know what other people think is they tell me. Now, you guys know that you go around going, she thinks, he thinks, she thinks, all the time. And you worry about it. And the only place that exists is inside your head. The only place that exists. Now, they may be thinking that, and you'll never know it. Unless you learn how to read minds. So you got to ask yourself, why do you do that? Why do you do that? Why do you worry about what other people think about you? Anybody know? Maybe I'm the only one that does it. Do any of you worry about what people think about you? Yeah, of course you do. Why? Because it matters to us. Part of where our self-esteem comes from is how other people react to us and treat us. And we want that. So when you finally get that in your breath, I want her to like me. I'm afraid she won't like me. What if she's thinking negative things about me? So I've gone and run the edge of the piece where I want her to like me, and now I'm kind of mad at her that she doesn't like me. She doesn't even know what's going on. That's kind of fun. And what I'm telling you is if you let go of this stuff, it takes about a ton off your brain right off the bat. So if you're worried about what people think, ask them. Get your courage up and say, you know, you've been kind of quiet around me lately, and I'm thinking maybe I've offended you in some way. Is there anything going on? They're going to go, what are you talking about? Most of the time, they might say, yeah, you stepped on my foot yesterday, and you didn't say I'm sorry, and I've been mad at you ever since. And I could say, gosh, I didn't know I did that, but I am sorry, and we're fixed. You see what I'm doing? I make it bigger in my head than it really is, and then I react to it as if it's real. And I've seen whole relationships go pooey over something like this where they didn't even know it was happening. You know, they interpret, well, he didn't smile at me today. I don't think he really likes me. And he forgot to call me at noon like he was supposed to, so I guess this relationship is done. Okay. And I say, well, did you call him and find out? No, if he really cared, he'd call me. And I'm thinking, okay, you just ruined that whole relationship all by yourself, and the other person doesn't even know what's happened. And we do that all the time, and we manufacture the anxiety. So we control our little brains. All of this is taught, and probably many of you have already touched it somewhere. In lots of medical schools, it's called mindfulness. And what mindfulness is learning how to exist in the present, how to control the symptoms of anxiety by breathing primarily. The person who taught it to me we get on yoga mats and lay down and do all this, so it's as depthy as you can get. But one of the things you have to learn to do, and you're going to laugh at me, I know, is learn to breathe through your feet. Okay, see, one reaction. That was my reaction. I went, oh, come on, that's not happening. And what I found out was that when I could let my whole body relax and do the relaxation exercises with the muscles, I could feel it go down to my feet and back. I could feel my air go through my body. It was wonderful. It's still wonderful. When I talk about it, I can feel it. And what it's talking about is relaxing everything between here and the feet to the point where I breathe, my whole body feels it. Okay? And you can do this. You don't have to be anxious all the time. Mindfulness teaches you to stop using some of the interpretations that you use to make yourself anxious. It teaches you to be an objective observer. And in your work, that's ideal. An objective observer knows they have emotions. They simply don't apply them yet. Okay? So I'm observing my patient. I'm observing the usual things, whatever it is that you observe. Maybe it's temperature or blood pressure or something. And again, I'm just ignorant, and so I don't know what you do. But those are my objective observations. But I'm also going to observe objectively without judgment that person's attitude. If they're grumpy with me. Okay? If I don't judge that like, oh, they're mad at me, that might be an important piece of information. You know, maybe something else is going on with them. So I want to be able to be there with them without making judgments. Patients are not always the easiest people to work with. Sometimes they got an attitude for a good reason. And what we can do is observe that objectively when we don't have our own anxiety in the way. And we'll get a lot more information about that person, and it will be cleaner information. Because my little feelings are going to get between me and what I see. So what if, for example, maybe I saw somebody have a heart attack and die? And what if I'm going in to work with these patients and I'm terrified that somebody's going to have a heart attack and die right in front of me? A lot of people build anxiety to the point where it's very specific like that too. The best thing I can do is learn about heart attacks. Good idea. 2, calm my own anxiety and begin to match the thoughts. Well, luckily, I'm usually around a whole bunch of medical people, and somebody would probably run in here and do CPR real fast. You hear what I'm doing? I'm changing the thought. So, well, if this person does have a heart attack, I'm in great shape. I'm in a good place. I can help them. So I'm going to let that one go. Okay. So Mrs. Jones comes in and she's mad at me and doesn't see why she has to have this procedure and what am I doing this for anyway, and doesn't it cost a ton of money, and breathe. Observe Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones is nervous. She's scared about this. This probably means to her something bad is going to happen. Breathe. That's Mrs. Jones, I understand all those things, and that really makes a lot of sense. And if you'll just come over here, we'll make it as comfortable as possible. And again, I'm not trying to say I know what you all do, but to say, know the difference. Your emotion when somebody's upset is to get upset yourself. And in this, we put that aside. Later on, we might come back and go, wow, that really scared me when she was upset. But right now, that goes aside, and I focus on the objective parts. Okay? If you do this in any aspect of managing anxiety, you are going to handle it better. Now, I've jumped all over the place, and I know I'm not watching time, but I wanted you to experience that breathing part, because that everybody can do everywhere, anytime. The more you practice this, the calmer you're going to be. The more you practice this, the less pain you're going to be in. These muscles that you tense to get ready to fight the bear, that's pain. A lot of you carry that around. You let it go. That's where the comes in. Okay. Anxiety also, and this is a pitch for wellness, and those of you who are out of town, you can contact us by phone and we can do telemedicine if we need to. The wellness center is there. We have therapists and we have psychiatrists. And when anxiety gets out of control to the point where it's disrupting your life, then we might take both approaches. We will definitely take a therapy approach, which will teach you some of this and also deal with those thoughts. But we can also take a medicine approach. And the doctors are wonderful, know what they're doing very well, and the service is available to you, so take advantage of it. If you need help, the medicines probably, if you don't study this already, are usually antidepressants or anti-anxiety agents, and they're meant to get us through this as quickly as possible because you guys don't have much time. So, you know, we could take a year and do therapy, or we can take 2 months and get you on meds and therapy and get you moving. And so a lot of times that's what we'll do. But know it's available to you. This kind of thing can be practiced. I believe the gym in the education building has a yoga class, and yoga is wonderful for anxiety. You can do it yourself. You can get a DVD and just sit on your own living room floor and do it. It's stretching and it's breathing. It's lovely. It's fun. I have a cat that does yoga, by the way. It's really cute. I don't know how he does it. Are there any questions here for teachers or anybody? Anybody? Mountain Home? No? Okay. So you all know how to breathe now? Well, there's a few people breathing in here. There's a couple that may be gone. No. Okay. So you got the basics. Anxiety is usually something you think. Exceptions are bears, fire trucks, walking out in traffic. There's a few things that are real anxieties, okay? And you want those. You remember, if anybody saw that video of the people lifting the car off of this guy that got hit, he was on a motorcycle? I had to keep watching that. I was just so amazed. That was the perfect use of anxiety. They all used every drop of adrenaline they had and lifted that car up off of that guy. It was the most amazing thing. Now, I would have loved to have been right in there afterwards and talked to them about what kind of anxiety happened right after it was over. I would love to know what they were thinking and talking about. But that's a use of anxiety. That's when you want it. That's when you read about these things. Somebody rushes out and grabs a kid out of traffic and pulls them out. And you think, they could never do that. That's the use of anxiety, pure and simple. Your ER people, yeah, they use it every once in a while. They shut it down pretty quick. After a while, you learn how to, and then go back down. So that would be very helpful for you to know that your anxiety response is very temporary. And so it's, okay, no bears now. Yeah. But when there's a bear, I'm on it. And what I do about bears is I don't go where they are. So that's how I've solved that problem. And most of us do the same thing, right? The things that make us anxious that are real, we just learn how to deal with them. Okay, well, I appreciate you, and you know where we're located. If you don't, it's that little gray building behind Burger King. That's where I tell everybody, and they all know where Burger King is. So it's okay. And we're there because we want to be away from the rest of the campus because we want you to feel secure and know that your privacy is being respected. We're the only people on campus that don't put our notes in the computer. So we try to do that and guard your privacy, and want you to know that's available to you too. Is that okay? Are we all right with everything? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.